you big fantastic rock, you and all those who reside up on it. I am King RP, host of Brothers of Many Words. I am life, I am energy, I am the possibility of what comes next. Moving with purpose, speaking with power, and becoming more every day.
What's up? What's up? I am King Mackey, better known as Harut the Great. Call me necessary.
Right on. I'm King Christopher. I'm here to recognize truth, evaluate the path, leverage discipline, and implement change through action.
Absolutely,
It's good to be on
absolutely.
today.
King, hit us with that. Absolutely. Go ahead. You know, you're right. You're right. It is good to be on today, man.
Yeah, it is.
A little
Yeah,
tired
it
today,
is.
but we're gonna rock this thing. It's always great information every single time. I am fascinated
Yes.
by what I read and what I
Yes.
come across and how it makes me feel, especially when we reflect back on civilization so long ago and to where we are now. It's it's surely it's a different contrast.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah. I do
100%.
agree. Yeah, I do agree. Yeah, I do agree. It definitely throws that narrative that Africa was just a wasteland. It didn't provide anything
Oh,
for the world today. And
big
and these
time.
these books we're reading have definitely proved a major point of how they've contributed to everything. I mean, how they brought
Everything.
everything,
Everything.
everything.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt. King, hit us with that affirmation.
All right, our affirmation for brother meaning words is we stand together as brothers, united in purpose and grounded in truth. Excuse me, grounded in respect. We move with love, speak with clarity, and we carry peace. No ego, no division, only growth. Each voice matters. Together we build something greater. We are aligned, we are ready. Peace in our energy, power in our unity, and purpose in our message. It is done.
It is done.
It is done. Absolutely. We want to welcome those to Sunday Book Club, powered by Brothers of Many Words. This is a weekly space for meaningful reading, honest conversation, cultural insight, personal growth, and deeper understanding. Each book becomes a doorway into wisdom, history, identity, discipline, and transformation. This year's topic is the origins of religion, a subject that is not only historical but deeply powerful, passionate, and alive with meaning. The book we are discussing currently is African Glory by author J.C. DeGraff Johnson. It is a fantastic book. Fantastic book. Right now, I'm on the hit us with some words of inspiration. Hardship has a way of forcing the soul to look beyond survival and ask what kind of person it is becoming for the future. Real life teaches that what is fundamental is not comfort, but endurance, clarity, and the courage to evolve through pain. A futuristic life is not built only with technology or ambition, but with inner strength shaped by trials. The deeper you search yourself in difficult seasons, the more prepared you become to walk forward with wisdom, purpose, and vision.
Hmm.
Let those
I
words
like that.
sink with you today and think about them. Think about them.
Yep. Yes.
Good words. Good
Yes.
words, man.
Yeah. Absolutely, bro.
Thank you, King.
How's everybody doing today?
Loving life.
Hey, I'm always living life like brother Christopher says, King Christopher says. But sometimes you kind of moving through that mud or quicksand sometimes, but that don't
Yes,
stop you. You just keep
absolutely.
moving.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What's the weather like up there?
Raining.
Sunshine and rain.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
It's raining. Which
We got the
in some
rain.
cases is good. It keeps the crowd indoors. So it's but
That's
I got an amazing opportunity, brother King Nick and I. We do security for Missouri Broadcast Association, which is pretty much any broadcaster, podcaster, anchor, any type of TV reality, or I say anchorman or news, meteorologist, anything like that comes to this award ceremony and receives awards throughout the state of Missouri. So you meet some really important people and some really informative people, so I made some connections, and so I look to discuss that with you guys a little bit later on people who might be interested, give us some little feedback or give us some information on how we can progress ourselves.
Right on.
awesome
That's
sauce.
awesome, brother.
Big time, brother.
Yes, yes.
Big time, King. Big time. All right, let's get into it. Last Sunday, African Glory chapters 8 through 10, just to give you a little bit of a recap. Chapter 8 had to do with the rise of African empires. The second, we discussed the second, the Arab invasion. The first one a little bit, the great writers of that time. Let's see, the rise of the Ghana Empire. Chapter 9 was the Mali and Songhai empires. The Mali Empire was Sandiata Gita and Mansa Musa, Mansa's pilgrimage to Mecca. And chapter 10 was the Songhai Empire, Sona Ali, Askia the Great. And that's what pretty much what those chapters were about. So today's podcast, we will be covering chapters 8 through 10. 11, 11 through 13 is where we're starting. 11 through 13 today. Okay, chapter 11. Let's get right into it. The end of West African empires is how that starts out. So right off the bat, you see you have Ishmael, who survived his father Askia the Great, and then you had Askia Ishak the First, who both were great leaders at that time. And it was during that second paragraph there. It was during Askia Ishak's reign that the Sultan of Morocco wanted to take the salt mines of Taghazza. He wanted a piece of the pie because, as we had discussed, the resources and the spices was just as valuable as the gold and all that stuff too. It was very possible. He wanted a piece of that pie. And he he didn't ask. He told them. Well, he asked them politely in a polite way that he wanted those mines. He wanted those mines to be given to him. Right. And Askia Ishak felt insulted by that. Insulted. And so they went to war behind that. Which your kings get.
Well, I wanted to bring up, we didn't really go, last week we didn't go over too much of the Songhai Empire. And so I just want to briefly read a little biography about Asagi the Great, so we kind of have an understanding going forward of what kind of happened and what he did for the Songhai Empire and how it got so big.
Sure.
So Askia the Great, also known as Askia Muhammad the First, was one of the greatest rulers of the Songhai Empire in West Africa. He came to power after the reign of Suna Ali and helped turn the Songhai into a powerful, organized, and wealthy empire. His key achievements, Asagi the Great expanded the Songhai Empire and made it one of the largest empires in African history. He also strengthened government by organizing provinces, officials, taxes, courts, administration. And he also supported Islam, education, scholarship, especially in the cities like in Timbuktu. And he had a famous pilgrimage also to Mecca, which increased Songhai's reputation in the Muslim world. He definitely made it Songhai a major center of trade for learning and political power. And that's another reason why we see Morocco, the other side of Islam, wanting to come over to the Song Empire because of their wealth and what they had going on over there.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that.
So that was good. He was very powerful. One thing, as you get into that last paragraph there, you get Askia Duaud, I believe that's how you say his name. Yes. It's one thing that I'm coming to realize is that, when these kings or these individuals come into power, it isn't just about the financial side of it, but for them making their rulership meaningful, it's always that wanting to go to war. They're wanting to go to war to expand their kingdoms. It's not just as he was, Duaud picked the fight with the Masi and the Fulani, and it just is, that seems to be an integral theme into their rulership, as the imprint that they want to leave going through.
Yeah, he was bold. Yes. Yeah, or he thought he was bold. I don't know.
Well, yeah, because he sent
what he sent? 15? 24. Yeah, he did.
24 to take on what was it? A couple of hundred of his 400 men. He took 24, and yes. They did well. Most of them got killed, but the ruler of the other empire, sent them back. It's like there's no need to waste such valuable men, and
Right.
that's just wild, man. But it also highlights too for me as well from being in the military how it seems to me as and I can't. I'm speaking because I'm not there. That the thought of the loss of life is just they want to expand their empires, and he sends 24 guys to take on 400. That's
24.
insane. Yeah,
Yes.
insane.
Yes.
I thought that was
Insane.
wild.
I did too.
And not just that, they were like, "He's the king. You have to go."
Right.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
they did.
Yeah, they did.
They did.
Yeah, I thought he miscounted. Y'all. I thought maybe.
Now made only 24 dudes. He thought his guys were that good.
Yes, he
They
did.
thought they were that good. Can you imagine
Yep.
rolling up on that and looking and just seeing all that, and you can't go back. You got to
Right.
go fight.
But to add on to that, when he sent those 24 horsemen to Cassina, the ruler Cassina didn't kill all of them.
No, he didn't.
He
No.
actually, I think he killed 15 of them, captured
Mhm.
9.
Yep.
And then the 9 he captured, I think in the book, he kind of apologizes to him for his ruler
Right.
sending him to their death because they were such
Mhm.
great warriors.
Right.
Like even he was
Right.
confused why he was wasting his men like that.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
wild.
I think he even made a statement of saying men of such incomparable valor do not deserve to die.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I just like the insight into that. It seems like each empire that we cover that we've done thus far, it always seems to be that thirst for battle. Always that thirst for battle. Even
Mhm.
back in Egyptian times as
Yeah.
well. There's always the expansion of the kingdom and wanting more and more and more
Mhm.
at the cost of lives, which is always important. Okay, so moving over, we're already on page 111. 111. So on the second paragraph, it speaks of because Ashak the Rain had attacked, what is it, Drya? And so on the other page, they got their revenge back, the
Mhm.
people of Morocco, and killed the governor of the Songhai governor of Tayhaz of the salt mines, and they took those salt mines.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Well, I think they had they actually opened up a new mine. They made a deal, a peace treaty
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes,
after they took over Takhazi and killed the governor. Yeah, but they made a peace treaty and opened up a new mine in Takaza. And peace between the Songhai and the Moroccos lasted for 21 years just because of that one mine.
that one mine.
But that was kind of like the last straw too. That was the last of the peace.
Mm-hmm. And then the recruiting process. We're going down to the bottom of the page where they talk about the recruiting process of the Tangiers of 17,000 men, but Europeans were recruited from several countries as Portuguese, Germany, Italian, several hundred popular troops under the command of Englishmen. So I thought that was
Mhm.
something too, that it wasn't just, Moroccans or Africans in general, or Arabs, that
Yes.
you had some Europeans from all over the countries.
Well, when you think about the
Yeah, so-
Europeans, he didn't really talk about what the background of those Europeans were too much in the book. But if they're a lot of them are Portuguese, so they have to have a Christian background. And I thought it was interesting that a Muslim ruler was using Christians as their army.
I did too.
Yes,
I did too.
Yes.
Yeah, I did too.
yes.
But wasn't
So if
that
you go
from
back-
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, bro. What you gonna say?
But wasn't that from Queen Elizabeth? Didn't she send?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
I thought so.
I was gonna get
Right.
Yes.
into that. Yes, because you go to I believe it's the third or fourth paragraph down. So I'm gonna read that. Early in 1578, Sultan Muhammad XI, sometimes called the Black Sultan because of his color, appealed to Dom Sebastian, King of Portugal, to help him recover the throne, which his uncle Abdul Malik had usurped. And so you're right. The fact that so Dom Sebastian is Portugal, the Europeans, if you will. And so, yes, they took that. And so you're piggybacked up on that, because listen, the Moors had ran them up out of Africa. So
Right.
they didn't really have a shot up in there. So this was like a little way to get a foothold, because he promised him that he would get them a permanent foothold on the Moroccan coast. So they were like,
Right.
yes, we want to get up in there. Because the
Right.
Moors is like, you're not coming
Mhm.
for us. So there was one way for them to get in there.
Right.
You think Queen
So that
Elizabeth was just thinking of, since she knew that the Moroccan Empire was so powerful that she just wanted to be friends with them, or
Mhm.
she was wanting to get the resources from Africa?
Both.
So yes, yes, we're
Both.
going, and that's on page 112. And you're
Mhm.
right because so this is what I took out of that. So at that same time, England, uh, after they defeated, let's see, that those 17,000 men, the Europeans, and those guys, the ones who were trying to take over Morocco, they were destroyed by the Moroccans themselves, and so both Sultan Muhammad on the top page, the top second paragraph on page 112, and Dom Sebastian were both killed. Muhammad
Mhm.
the 11th was flayed and his body stuffed and paraded
Mm.
throughout
Ain't
the
that
Principal of Morocco. I mean,
ain't that
flayed and
something?
stuffed. That is
Flayed.
insane.
Flayed,
Flayed,
yes. Oh
flayed.
wow, really?
I was like,
Man.
them. I
They
mean,
put in
they
some work to make that.
put shoot. And so now they had the younger brother of Abdul Malik.
Right.
And so they seen how powerful Morocco was. So people from all the surrounding areas were sending him gifts, da 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 da
Mhm.
da. And so
Right.
yes, the Queen Elizabeth. So at that time, so they were playing. Well, no, she wasn't. So secretly, she was sending the Sultan of Morocco, the young El Mashur, timber and stuff for shipbuilding. But here was the thing about that I took from that. So at the same time, England was battling Spain. They were battling Spain for sea supremacy at the same time. And
Mhm.
so she didn't want to, she didn't want to direct, the Sultan to aid her in Spain, because again, they seen what they just did. And so she was secretly trying to get on his
Negotiate.
side,
Uh-huh.
and
Yep.
she was sending him messages secretly. And
Right.
so if you go on to page 113, you know, when El Mansur decided, what can we do again? His soldiers were not doing anything, and he wanted to pick a fight. And so it was
Mhm.
like, let's go attack the Songhai Empire. And so
Right.
from that, um,
I thought that was interesting that he was rewarding
yes,
his soldiers with another war.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the
it's
author wrote it like the soldiers wanted it.
I
Like that's
believe
well,
what
it.
they
yes,
wanted. That's what it
They
felt
that's what
like.
they live for. Yeah, that's what they
that's
live
what they
for.
live for.
Yeah.
And it
It's
wasn't
different
just
now.
like, between Morocco and the Songhai Empire, there was a huge desert. And so they
Oh
gave him
yes.
opposition, like, we don't want to do that. But he finally got his way. And so they prepared and built, not built, but they just prepared for it to take that journey. And of course, Queen Elizabeth, offered some of her men. So
Yeah.
she found a way to get in.
Yeah.
And she was doing this early. She did
Yes.
this before Muhammad the 11th had even passed and Don Sebastian. She was doing this in like 1977 and they were still alive.
Right.
So
Right.
again, that's why it was secretly. Most of them
Yes.
waited till Sebastian and Muhammad the 11th had passed, and now we want to become, because we have a new ruler coming. But she was doing it prior to
Hmm.
that. I thought that was important to note.
Very sneaky. But and that just highlights how it
Strategic.
all
Yeah, it
goes
might
on.
be
Yeah.
Yeah,
strategic.
yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. That's true. It's true. And those things go on all the time.
All
They
the
go on
time.
all the time, even to this day.
Hmm.
I mean, it's wild. You just never know.
Hmm. Yep.
And so on, I know I'm moving quick here, Kings, but on 113, it goes into, so they sent, Queen Elizabeth sent to the sea. So what's of significance too, because there was, of course, so I'm on that second paragraph, the third paragraph there. I'm just going to read that thing. On June 23rd, on page 113, on
Gotcha.
June 23rd, 1590, we find the Sultan El Mansur of Morocco writing to Queen Elizabeth of England, regretting his inability to deal promptly with certain communications received from the English Queen, since he was very busy putting his finishing touches to his West African campaign. Europeans who were relieved at the idea of Morocco diverting her military might from Europe and trying it against West Africa enlisted freely in the Moroccan army. There was, of course, a bait, the possibility of getting some gold. Of the first contingent of 4,000 men of the fighting line, only 1,500 were Moroccans. The rest were Europeans. Their artillery men were Europeans, mostly Englishmen. The cannonballs and other munitions had largely been supplied by Queen Elizabeth of England. So ready were Europeans to enlist in this Moroccan army that the Spanish became its official language. Even the command of the army went to a Spanish eunuch named Jadar Pasha.
Yeah, that's wild. That's just wild by itself.
Yes, it is.
Almost don't even make sense.
No.
It almost don't make sense.
Unless they were just the Europeans were just that greedy, hungry for gold.
I mean, it makes sense.
What
I
other
mean, it makes
reason
sense.
would they want to go fight?
Well,
Right.
listen, uh, Mansa Musa put it on the spotlight
Mhm.
for the world.
Yes, he did.
He put it on the spotlight for the world. That pilgrimage to Mecca was epic.
Right.
They all got
Yeah.
to see the wealth that was there in this overabundance, if you will. So
Mhm. Mhm.
everybody wanted a piece of that pie.
And when you look at it like in the big picture, kind of zoom out and just look at everybody together, the whole campaign was about wealth.
It was.
I mean, because El Mansour, Morocco was Islam. So was Songhai Empire. They were both Islamic countries, empires.
Yeah.
Right.
And El Mansour just wanted Songhai's riches. That's
That's it.
all that was about. And then
That's
he
it.
enlisted
That's
more
it.
people that wanted riches too.
That's it.
Yes.
And, you know, so
Yeah.
we had covered that in the prior chapter of how they were all intermingling, intermarrying one another, and they were just basically killing one another. But
Yeah.
you're right that it was all for the wealth.
That's
Right.
all it was
It was all
about.
for the wealth.
Yeah.
And he wasted a lot of men traveling over the Sahara Desert
Yes,
just to
he
get there.
did. Yes, he did. Didn't it take him like 2 or 3 years to prepare for it? I mean,
Yeah.
it was like
Yes.
unreal.
And lost a third of the army just
A
trying
third of the army just getting there.
And it was the eunuchs, so these guys that don't have any male members is the one leading
That's
these
correct.
armies.
That's
Mhm.
correct. That's correct.
Yep.
And the Judar Pasha, so those played a significant. They did play a significant role throughout the history when they got there.
Wait, to me that's just wild having a eunuch lead an army, like a guy that has no desire for, the basic thing that most men want, right? And
Right.
Right.
why most men do the things they do, and this guy's leading an
Right.
army.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with
No,
you, man.
there's something to that, because obviously too. Well, I say obviously, it seems that he was of some sound of some great value, because to lead those men over there, and again when they got there, it was just succession after succession of that was an important spot. The Judar Pasha, that was an important spot. So it's just like you're right, not to have that desire, but there was something there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jada Pasha wasn't even Moroccan, and he was extremely
Yeah.
loyal for years.
That's right.
Across
right.
distances, great
right.
distances.
That's right.
I just thought that was wild. Like, what had been going on in their head to be loyal to a king of another country?
Right. Right.
Right.
Yeah. But like you said, wealth. I mean, wealth was
Wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll move on to page 114. 114.
I thought this was just wild.
Come on.
No guns. No guns.
No
Nope.
guns.
I mean, it ain't even the concept of don't bring a knife to a gunfight. This is bringing nothing to a gunfight.
Well, I don't even think the Songhai Empire even knew about guns. I don't even think they had
didn't.
even the information about guns.
No, they didn't.
They
They didn't.
didn't.
So when they fought that battle, that was an entirely new thing for them.
But you would think it would be some type of something that you would need to know. Do you know what I mean? You need to know your enemies and what they have, and So I'm a little confused on that too. I mean, I get it.
I think they were prideful.
Okay.
They didn't think anyone could touch them.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. Because I feel you.
Well, listen, that on those page 114, those two paragraphs, the second and third. I'm going to read the first one.
Yeah.
To give a little bit of insight. So, the Songhai Council of War failed to appreciate the full gravity of the situation. Askia Ishak's instructions were either trifled with or regarded as the instructions of one who was panic-stricken. His orders for filling in the wells on the northern route fell into the hands of Jadar Pasha. On February 8, 1591, Jadar Pasha halted his army on the left bank of the river Niger at an obscure village called Karabara, where Jadar Pasha gave a banquet. After a short pause, the invading army moved to Gayo. 50 miles from Gayo, a quickly raised Songhai army of 18,000 cavalrymen, 18,000, and 9,700 infantrymen, led by Askia Ashak II, prepared to give battle. The Songhai army had no guns. Even though firearms had been introduced to Bornu sometime earlier, the Songhai soldiers had no knowledge of their use. Jadar Pasha's forces, however, were well equipped with firearms, including cannons. Does anybody want to read that second paragraph? Here, we keep going.
I'll read it.
Go ahead.
The two armies approached each other. Jarad Pasha made an effort to get Aska Ishka II to surrender without a battle, but this only served to raise the spirit of Ishka, who regarded the gesture as a sign of weakness. The issue was soon joined. The first fighting column of the Songhai army made its charge. It consists of cattle, and they were intended to spread confusion into the ranks of Jarad Pasha's forces. Jarad merely ordered his men to open their ranks and allow the cattle to pass through, which was done without anybody being hurt. Then the two opposing armies really met. Most of the Songhai forces were indisciplined, but they were a few highly disciplined soldiers among them, and those sought to inspire confidence in the rest by kneeling down and lashing their shins to their thighs so that they were unable to rise. And from that position, they fired their arrows until they were shot down by Jarad Pasha's guns. The invading troops, that is insane.
I didn't get that, but they just kill themselves.
Yeah,
they slashed their shins all the way up to the thighs so they couldn't stand up, and shooting bows and arrows at guns
until they got shot dead.
Until they got shot dead. Sent cattle.
That's discipline.
Cattle. Yeah.
I mean, I was just reading and imagining in my head like this big herd of cattle and this army over here. They're like,
what? I know. I thought the same thing.
We'll come back and get you later after the war. We'll be hungry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, hey, Cap, that's supper. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
But you know, when that army was marching up to Songhai and got Jadab Pasha asking him to surrender. I mean, when you think about that, like the audacity a person has to have.
Right.
You know, you're the one that's invading this empire. You came across the desert and you're here on my land just out of nowhere and telling me to surrender.
Right.
Like, if I was the emperor of Songhai, I'd be like, screw you, man. Let's go.
Well, that's what he said.
Right
you
now.
know, but
yeah.
Jadar Pasha might have had, prior knowledge, of their capabilities, if you will. Probably knew they didn't have any guns and knew without that it was going to be a slaughter. I mean,
oh yes.
But they didn't beat him.
True.
Not that battle.
No, not that battle.
No, they didn't.
Not that battle. But that just gives a little bit of insight of what the thought process was. He was prideful when he got that. Like, no way, I'm not taking that. We're going to fight this thing.
Yeah.
It's not funny. It's just amazing. You get the mindset of what was going on.
It's the discipline, bro. That's disciplined. I'm sorry. That's loyal. You know what I mean? I mean, you just can't go wrong with that. You know, I mean, the Middle East itself. When you think about the people and all the many wars and things that they have done, I mean, the people of the Middle East seem to be a very loyal to what they believe. Yes. I mean, to a point, to modern times where you have, suicide bombers, you know what I mean, to what they believe that when they pass, they have 12 wives and this and that and all the gold and godship that they need. So
no,
belief is real.
And to add to that, not to get off subject, this thing with the war with Iran, it's no different. They are disciplined, and they got thousands of years of
thousands.
And
thousands.
It's not just discipline. It's also that they take these people as children and they teach them as kids. And so these kids are brainwashed to believe it, so they will go kill themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
Brainwashed by a religion.
Okay, moving on to page 115. 115. And then, that first paragraph highlights there how, before all of this, there was peace in these countries. Peace and prosperity had prevailed in the heart of African continent before Jajar Pasha attacked. Then after that, it was anarchy, plundering, depredation. Timbuktu, Gayo, Djani were sacked, pillaged, and burnt to the ground. To quell the people and break their spirit, the Moroccans filled in the wells and destroyed the cultivated fields.
Yeah, they even filled in the wells in the fields
Yeah.
so the civilians couldn't survive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, that's mean.
Yeah, they went hardcore. They went hardcore. So I'm gonna read that little insert right there. Therefore, the Sandinese, whom we have seen so full of energy, loses all initiative under the despotic military rod and the constant threats to his life, his family, and his possessions. Vast agglomerations of people dwindled into insignificant villages. Timbuktu, which had a population of over 200,000, dwindled into a village of 15,000 people. Even morale standards were relaxed in the midst of this universal distress. For the Niger states, the Arab colonization denoted the beginning of the end.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing good comes from war, gentlemen. Nothing.
No.
Good
200,000 to 15,000 people.
Bruh. That's just like, when you think about Turtle Island and all the many Indian tribes who no longer exist anymore. Millions of people died. Millions. I mean, and then the ones that did survive were put on reservations, and then they slowly died. I mean, it's just history just seems to repeat itself. And once you learn a little bit of it, you might have the ability to prevent some things, but if you
Sure.
don't, it just continues to roll over.
And you make a great point because it does. It just repeats itself. Listen, we're on in a short journey into this, but it does. It's the same thing over and over and over.
Right.
It's all about wealth and power.
Yeah, and the strategies don't change. That's the thing about it. The
Strategies don't
strategies
change,
really
yes.
don't change. They just kind of build off of, but they really don't change.
No.
So on the rest of the page of 115, Askia Ashek, he was on the run.
Mhm.
He was on the run for his life.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, and that goes on into to page 116. And listen, Jadar Pasha did not stop. It's his thirst to finding him was immense. So, I mean, he could never stop. He was always on the run. Always on the run. I'm on page 116, King. 116.
Before we move on to page 16, I wanted to just mention, as Jada Pasha was just wiping out all these towns and cities, even though they were victorious, there was massive losses to that
Yes,
army.
it was.
Massive
Yes, it was.
losses. I mean, yeah, they were victorious, but it wasn't like it was easy for them. They experienced massive loss.
Yeah. Yeah. Like they talk about the tropical diseases like malaria, yellow fever. We read in the last chapter the sleeping sickness.
And they lost a lot of their flies. If we go back, remember when the Songhai was first getting started, they lost their cattle, right? And they had to redo how they were doing things. And then Jada Pasha's army got to that area, they lost a lot of their horses and stuff from the test fly.
Yeah, they sure did.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. So on page 116, I'm just going to get into that paragraph and shoot. I'm just going to get into the middle section of it, and it has to do with Askia II. So he was on the run, for his life, and so he tried to reach Kebi near Lake Chad, but circumstances compelled him to place himself at the mercy of the Gurma, who had long hated Songhai rule, and he and his companions were all murdered. Mm-hmm. The ingratitude of the Songhai people to Askia Ashek II will go down in history as one of the worst acts of perfidy ever perpetrated by Africans. So even though he was on the run from his invaders, his own people killed him.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He ain't safe nowhere.
No.
He ain't safe
nowhere. Nope.
But that kind of makes you think about how did he really treat his people?
True.
That's a great point.
Yeah, that is a great point. Yeah.
That's a great point.
I mean, the kingdom could be wealthy, just like here in America. We have the government that's very wealthy, right?
Right.
But what about the rest of its subjects?
Yeah. Corporations. Yeah. Yeah, us not so much.
Mm-mm.
Not in this
Mhm.
economy right now. Not in this economy. I was surprised to see gas at $4 the other day. It's really been about 4.52 in most places, or between 4.19 and 4.52. But I seen it right at 400 the other day. I brought gas tanks. I brought the other car. I wanted to pour stuff in the trunk just so I can preserve the gas. I mean,
Yeah, but
you
when
know,
when you think about it, like compare all these because later when we get in a few chapters, we'll see how leaders of this area was, there was more than one leader in a year, like because they just
yes,
kept on going in and out. But you go
right,
back to think about Mansa Musa and his reign. Mansa Musa, I mean, it was he showed the world the wealth that he had, but he also, in my opinion, it seems that he was nice to his people,
right,
and
Sure
he
was.
shared his wealth with his people, and that's most likely why it lasted for so long, and there was peace for a good while
right.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah,
until
yeah.
people
And it,
started getting stingy.
yeah, yeah. I kind of heard a comparison between the American economy and the Chinese economy. And the American economy, what they were saying is that they give in to more of the 1%. You know what I mean? The
Right.
1% is what's leading our country, but in China they kind of have it split off where 50% of what they do goes to the 1%, but the rest of it goes into building communities and building building up the people in society itself. I think
Yes.
they were saying the GDP of China has increased over the last 20 years by like 9%, when the
Wow.
United States has only increased by like 0.5.
Wow.
How China was really making some huge contributions to AI, and they were really making some changes to really get their economy to where they really wanted to be. But it was always about the citizens,
Right.
even though it's a communist country, right?
Yeah.
But yet again, obviously they must be doing something halfway good.
I mean, that's the
That's
trade-off
right.
with the communist country. Like they are in absolute control.
Right,
And they
right,
know if they're a smart communist country, they know they need their population to survive. And
true.
so at the same time, yeah, I mean, I see how China they have more community, the more money is there. Um, I don't really know enough to speak that much. I just know what I've heard.
Right.
Um, and from what I hear is that in China, you're not as free. You're a little more controlled by the government. You don't have access to certain information because they also control the internet there.
This is true. This is true. This is true. Okay, King. Okay. Um, at during that time, when Askia was running for his life, Aisha II, there was a change in the postures, if you will. So there was Mahmoud bin Zergan who took over Gerald Pasha's place. And so on page 117, I liked the first paragraph there, highlights how the um, how the Moroccans changed their tactics, as we have spoken on, how they changed their military tactics. It wasn't just more out in the open, it reverted to, they moved to the forest. They moved to the forest, and hence was a vigorous guerrilla warfare campaign, if you will. So they
Mhm.
changed their tactics and really made an effective stance on the Europeans.
Oh
Right.
yes.
And wasn't this the new leader? Wasn't this the new leader that
Yes,
came in and
yeah,
did that?
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Askia na, Askia
Nah,
na.
Askia
Askia
Nas.
nah.
Sounds Egyptian. Sounds Egyptian.
Yes, yes, yes. They changed their tactics and really, really took it to him. Really, really took it to him. And so let's see. So you mentioned about the
But they
uh,
captured when they killed him, Askia. They
mhm,
also installed during that time they installed a
Mm-hmm.
puppet and separated
They
mhm,
sure
Songhai
did.
into and then
mhm,
Songhai
Other
eventually they elected their own in the south, and then you had the one that was elected by Morocco.
right.
mhm.
Yes, that's a great point, bro. That's a great
That's
point.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Which
We're
again is what is what we do to this day. I
Yeah,
mean, United States is big about, taking somebody out and putting in their own puppet. They done it in Haiti.
yep.
I mean, trying to do it in Venezuela. They done it in the
Yes.
Middle East for decades.
Yes. Yes. That
you're
is a
right.
great point. It's a great point. We had mentioned on the sickness of the Europeans. So Askia Na employed similar tactics and inflicted a series of losses on the Moroccans. Malaria, dysentery, and the testy fly also
Mhm.
killed off men and horses, and the Moroccans were unable to advance further south.
Yep.
And that seems to always be a theme too. And well, depends on where you're at. diseases and things like that. These are ancient times, so they didn't have a lot of cures for those things. But a lot of people died because of those, especially in warfare, when you didn't have with medics and things like that to come to your aid.
Well, that's why Askia Nuh did that, because he knew they didn't have the experience, and they had the experience. So he moved into the jungle, and that was kind of like the last stronghold of Songhai. That was the reason why they lasted so long, was because of that.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. Matter of fact, even in Europe around the 1800s, it was the African forests were considered the white man's grave due to the fact that they didn't go into the forest due to the tropical diseases as well. But if we also think about too, I try to kind of tie things into ancient times and modern times, which is not so modern, but when you think about these things that are tropical disease were more natural to Africa, right? But when you think about war and you think about chemical warfare, all right, or biological warfare, you think about Agent Orange, which was used in a time of war within the United States itself to other countries. So instead of having the natural ability to do something to create some type of disease, as it did during ancient times, chemicals were created to bring some type of illness. Or even when you go back into dealing with the Indians, and Europeans, the Europeans were giving Indians smallpox blankets and killing off their people through smallpox through the blankets. So I mean, it's just, again, absolutely, it's just kind of funny again how things constantly repeat themselves in strategy when it comes to war.
Yeah, biological warfare was being used back then.
Yes, sir.
Just in a different way.
In a different way. Yeah, in a different way.
Absolutely. All right, Kings, moving on to page 118. 118. We see as they continue, there were, as Chris had alluded to, there were many more battles between Songhai and Moroccan empires for some time. What I took out of 118, so when the first Judar Pasha started, just reading on that the third paragraph, just that last sentence, a confused state of affairs continued. And in the next 90 years, there were no fewer than 128 different pashas.
Yes. In 90.
Yes.
A lot.
That means none of them even lasted a year.
Not even a year.
Not even a year.
No. Nope.
That must have been chaos.
I bet it was. Yeah, I bet it was.
And listen too, so it wasn't just that too. So I go to that second paragraph. Judar Pasha had murdered succeeding Moroccan commanders and had himself become sole ruler of the Moroccan army, only to be finally recalled in March 1599 to assist the Sultan at home. So what I'm getting at, so you got to be a leadership, but you also had to worry about being assassinated from other people who were jealous.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they also they stole their education and their scholars.
Yes.
And they actually made him move from Timbuktu.
Right. Yep. Yep.
And that one of the most famous professors that they took was Professor Ami Baba.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
correct.
At the bottom of that paragraph, I'll just continue off of Christopher. He said, Baba, while he was a prisoner in Morocco, he's reported to have said, all of my friends in the Sudan, I was owned the smallest library, but I possessed 1,600 volumes. So compared to his other friends, he had the smallest library, but he had 1,600 volumes.
Yes.
Pretty wild.
That is. I mean, that's that's some information I love to read right there.
Yes. No doubt, man. No doubt. No doubt. Okay, moving on to page 119. Keen's got anything on there?
That is our last page of this chapter.
Yes. The only thing I will say about that is that last sentence.
I do agree.
Once more, Africa has swallowed up an invader, but at a terrible cost to herself one more time.
Yep.
Yeah,
I thought that was a powerful statement.
Yeah, many Moroccan soldiers remained in West Africa rather than returning home. A lot of them married local women and had children. Other generations or descendants adopted local languages, customs, and many ways of life. I thought that was.
So once again, when they get there, they don't leave.
No, I wouldn't leave either. I wouldn't leave either. Be like, hey, it's party time.
Because their way of life was awesome. It seemed to be. I say, I'm not there for sure, but it seemed to be. It seemed to be okay.
I definitely like to go check it out. I don't know if I'd like to live there right now.
Yeah, I definitely would love to check it out. Would love to check it out. Okay, moving on to chapter 12. Prelude to West African Discoveries. Prelude to West African Discoveries. And so, it mentioned right up that first paragraph, and it speaks of the Dark Continent. And so I just looked that up just to give us a little bit of insight. So to understand the phrase Dark Continent, consider the following points. Originally referred to Africa, highlighting its unexplored regions during the 19th century, implies a lack of knowledge or understanding about the continent's cultures and geography. Used in a colonial context, reflecting European perceptions of Africa as mysterious and savage. Criticized for perpetuating stereotypes and ignoring Africa's rich history and civilizations. Today, the term is often viewed as outdated and offensive, emphasizing the need for a more nuanced understanding of Africa. So I've seen that a time or two, and so I just want to bring a little bit of insight to what when they say Dark Continent. What does that mean? I mean, I had an idea, but I just want to shed a little light on it.
Right.
They want to make people think like there wasn't much going on in Africa when there was.
Yeah. And again, it's just sad to this day that most people in the West still don't know. And this is our job right here to inform them and give them this knowledge. But yeah, most still don't know to this day.
Yeah, I mean, he talks about on these first 2 pages of the chapter, even the Phoenicians and all of them were sending sailboats down the west of Africa to check it out, and there was trading, resource gathering, and all that stuff's going on. So if there's trade going on, that means there has to be civilization going on,
right?
Especially on a sailboat. I mean, to have a sailboat, you got to have technology, you got to have engineering, you got to have people to be able to work together, workshops and studies.
Yes.
So,
yes,
Africa was not dark.
No.
Very, very much alive.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It was. Absolutely. And so, on 120 there, it gets into, as you were just mentioning, to the sea travels, if you will.
Yep.
For them getting on the sea and to see how far they can get into, Africa. And then you have Admiral Hanno. Admiral Hanno, who was a Carthaginian. Let's give a little bit of insight. So, in the 5th century BCE, the Carthaginian explorer Hanno sailed beyond the Pillars of Hercules out of the Mediterranean and into hitherto unknown territory down the Atlantic coast of Africa. In his search to find new resources and trading opportunities, he encountered such exotic and unfamiliar sights as restless natives, swift-footed pygmies, gorillas, and erupting volcanoes. The expedition became, even in antiquity, one of the most celebrated voyages of discovery ever undertaken. So, as we can see, they were, countries were starting to venture out, not just from the land, but onto the sea as well. And listen, I think it takes a lot of courage, on land, but to get out onto the open sea and to not have, not some idea where you're going. I think that's pretty goddamn brave myself.
Yeah.
I mean,
we understand.
That's one thing I am jealous about the old times compared to now is they had exploration.
Sure.
Yes, they did.
And
yes,
people like we don't have that anymore today.
Right.
People have been everywhere.
They've been studying astronomy and the stars. I mean, going back to the beginning of Egypt. I mean, so it was prevalent back then, as far as the ability to move around.
All right.
That's right. And so, you have so after Admiral Hanno, you had let's see here. There were several that were taken on. You had that was the first one. So then you had Eumenes, 400 to 300 BCE.
Polybius.
However you say his name, man. Yeah, Polybius. Yes, these were major voyages that were taken around Africa. Now, after those gentlemen,
and those were Greek. Those were Greek navigators.
Yes, right, absolutely.
Yeah.
So just people have a time frame like thousands of years ago, there was trading and stuff going on here in Africa.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. And then we're moving on with the last down there. The next one after that is his name is Jean de Rouen, who's a Frenchman.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
he also after that, took on to the voyages around West Africa. I'm on page 122, Kings 122. And so now there was some dispute, about that between the British and the French, because the French claimed that they had been there first before the British.
Of course it
And
did.
the British says no, that we were there first before that. Now, let's see here. That second paragraph, many British historians are not prepared to accept the French account. The official historian of the Colonial Office does not even refer to the French claim to have been the first Europeans in comparatively modern times to explore the coast of West Africa. The historian of the Gold Coast, the government dismisses the French claim in these words. The European pioneers of the Gold Coast were the Portuguese, unless the flimsy evidence of the French landing a century earlier is accepted. The Portuguese first reached the coast in 1471 and in 1482 began to form settlements where they remained for the next 1600 years. So there is that dispute. However, there was, if we get a little bit further down, there's a cannon at Elmina Castle that is different from the others. And from my understanding, that's the only piece of, or discrepancy, if you will, to dispute, between the British and the French.
Right.
Or I mean
Right.
the Portuguese and the French.
Yeah, the Portuguese and the French.
I mean, I think we definitely know the Portuguese was there because they built the castle.
Sure.
But I mean, I believe that the French were probably there. They just didn't build any strongholds. I mean, putting up a wood house and having a small village, having a little settlement. Why not? If they knew that there was a lot of wealth down there. I mean, that's the only reason why the Portuguese was coming there. And we know
Yeah.
the French likes their fancy stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And that right.
Mhm.
And I think that holds a valid point too, even when you start thinking about,
Okay.
when they start thinking about going back to the beginning of the chapter being the dark continent, other countries wanted to come to Africa. Why though? If it had nothing, if it had no resources, if it had no civilization and no ancient kingdoms, then what's the point? And I get the concept of land, but it had much more than just land. I mean, the land was rich and the people were rich. When you think about here where it says on page 123, I know I'm kind of going a little further, but since Mansa
No, go
Musa
ahead. We'll move on that.
dazzled the world with the West African gold from Africa that became fascination. I mean, goodness gracious, with ivory. I mean, with the salt mines, you just couldn't go wrong. But again, other countries weren't there just for the fixation
That's
of
right.
of just the people. It was the resources.
But we have
That's a great point.
the Portuguese really wanted to move down there because they believed in there was a historical king, it was Apostle John running a kingdom,
Right.
And followers down there. When I read that, I mean, I kind of think that the church was using that as an excuse to go get the gold,
True.
saying we're doing this
True.
is religious, we're doing it
Yes.
for our beliefs to
Right.
get people to come and be part of it and build that castle. But I
Yes.
think they were using that as an excuse to get the wealth.
I do agree.
Mhm.
I do agree.
I agree with you guys as well.
We know
Absolutely.
that church.
But you know
Yeah,
those
we know
monasteries,
hey,
man, they really like their fancy gold and silver and
Oh
all.
yes.
you know.
Yes. We are really getting some great insight into religion and the church as well. And so that's one thing that I'm really falling in love with the reading. So yeah, we picked the origins of Africa, but it's so involved. It opens up into everything. You don't think about religion. What does religion have to do with Africa? But it has everything to do with Africa.
Almost
And
all the
then we're learning
religions are
about
from there.
yes,
Mhm.
and we're learning about as to what King Mac just said about the resources, and it's I enjoy it quite a bit, but it opens up levels into things that was not even thinking about, if you will.
Yes.
And so on page 123, we keep on going. Gets down, it talks about General Tariq, and as King mentioned about the Mansa Musa, and the last paragraph there, goes into what I took out of that, the persecution of the Christians again,
Mhm.
what they could and could not do, and how they absolutely could not, propagate, the Christian religion. That was not accepted at all.
But this one gets into one of the biggest reasons why the Europeans were traveling down the West Coast in sailboats. It was because the Ottoman Empire and the Islam Empire, they didn't really want to go through Morocco and the Islam Empire that had the Red Sea to get down to the wealth. And so instead of traveling south, on the east side of West Africa, they sailed around the west side
Mhm. Yeah, they
because
did.
they were afraid of getting attacked and wouldn't be able to get through that territory.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And we'll move it on to 124. And he goes into the same thing, with the Christians and what they could and they could not do. Let's see. You can't get anything. You can't get anything out of 124.
124.
I don't have anything highlighted on 124.
Well, I'll just highlight that second to last paragraph when he speaks of Saint Francis of Asia.
Yes.
Excuse me, and his pilgrimage to not pilgrimage, but uh, his visit to Africa, to Egypt, and so they talk about doing the Fourth Crusade. So at this time too, the Crusades were going on,
Mm-hmm.
the religious Crusades, and so the Fourth
Yep.
Crusade was had to do with the Byzantine Empire and the sack of Constantinople. And this was from 1202 to 1204. That's one to highlight because at the same time, the Crusades were going on, and those Crusader wars were powerful. There were many
Yes, they
of them
were.
at that
Yes,
time.
they
There
were.
were many of them at that time. Initiated by the Pope, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
for the fight of Jerusalem. For the fight of Jerusalem.
And we got someone in the comments real quick I want to mention
Okay.
before we move on. He's asking, do you think if Christianity wasn't such a strong religion that it would have changed the outcome of Africa or origins? Yes, I believe if Christianity didn't become a strong religion, that would have completely changed the outcome of Africa and the outcome
Yeah.
of America, the world.
Yes. Yes. But it was forced. Again, it was forced.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? It wasn't like it was pleasantly given and willingly accepted.
Well, just
It was
like
forced.
Islam, they both were.
Yeah, they were. They both were. Absolutely.
And that highlights, what
I just think
Saint
the
Francis-
Islams had a little more loyalty than the Christians did. I feel like the ancient Christians were more focused on power and money. They were more greedy. While the Islams, they were still about conquering and power, but they were a lot more loyal to their religion than the Christians were.
I can see that for sure. And so that highlights too, as I just mentioned, St. Francis, I say, going there and to force, if you will, the Christianity. And then you move on to page 125 of the five friars, Petrio, Ortho, Jutus, Accurso, and Bernard, they died, committed suicide, if you will. That statement, the thirst for martyrdom becomes the madness of suicide, so they were willing to die for that, in order to get people to convert. They were, as you said, they were fighting Islam at that time. And so that next paragraph, Raymond Lull, I thought his story was fascinating. Fascinating. I'm gonna read that middle paragraph right there.
Okay.
More friars continued to pour into North Africa, where the Dominican order had been firmly established in 1234, only 12 years after the death of its founder. But perhaps the most commanding figure among the North African missionaries was Raymond Lull. His first mission to Africa began in 1292 when he was 60 years of age. At Tanzania, his sermons led to his imprisonment, trial, and deportation. In 1307, he appeared again in North Africa, being 75 when he landed at Bugia. In spite of his previous experience, Raymond Lull began his first sermon with the words, "The law of the Christians is holy and true, and the sect of the Moors is false and wrong, and I am prepared to prove." The populace was ready to dismember him, but the authorities placed him under protective arrest, and after 6 months, he was again deported. The old man stayed away from Africa for 7 years, and then in 1314, at the age of 82, he decided to undertake a third missionary journey to Africa, no doubt to court the red rose of martyrdom. He visited both Bugia, and Tanzania, and is said to have gained many converts. He met his end at Bugia, where he was stoned to death. So it just gives you, I mean, that's just wow.
Persistent. Dude was
Yes.
persistent.
I mean, he was a very loyal Christian person.
Yes, yes. I thought it was a fascinating story. Fascinating story. And as you spoke on that last paragraph of King Chris, Prester John, who some thought was the Apostle John.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, that's a great story to tell people to get them to believe in a something.
Right.
But they did,
Right.
and they were really. I mean, that was a hectic search to find him, or to find his kingdom, if you will.
Yeah. One of the
we've
prime
also
reasons the
learned-
Europeans were going there.
Yes.
Yeah, and we've always learned, dude, even through war, it was easier for certain religions to pop up due to the vulnerability of the citizens and the people. You needed something to believe in. Which allowed open the doors for Christianity and different religions to step into. So and my thought, you wonder how people just convert or just make these changes, and it makes sense when there's chaos going on. You need something to believe in, or to believe in the chaos itself.
Yes.
Yeah, and well, listen, when your life is threatened and you have these restrictions, what you can and cannot do, then it becomes a matter of survival. So then, what do you? Really
It does.
And the church, and the church still plays that card today. It's all about
still plays it.
Heaven
Still
or
plays
hell.
it.
Either listen to this and do this, or you're going to be damned for eternity.
Yeah.
And they're still using that control and to create what? Wealth. And that's what the churches do.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, Kings, moving on to page 126. What I got out of that is Prince Henry the Navigator. Is what I got out of him. And so, Prince Henry the Navigator, let's see here. What did I get on him? He established a school for navigation in Sagres, Portugal, promoted maritime education, sponsored numerous voyages on the African coast to help uncharted territories, advanced the development of new navigational tools such as the astrolabe and the caravel, played a crucial role in the early stages of the Atlantic slave trade, encouraged the exploration of trade routes in India and Spice Islands, laid the groundwork for Portugal's maritime empire age of discovery. And so this next chapter here, did anybody else get anything on page 126?
No,
you got it, bro.
No,
okay, so chapter 13, I think this is a very interesting chapter. The Portuguese in West Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And so right off the bat, it speaks again of Prester John and Prince Henry the Navigator. So that third paragraph, I'm going to read that.
Yes, sir.
The records show that Henry's captains, Antonio Gonçalves and Nuno Tristan, called at Rio de Oro in 1441 and brought back with them to Portugal some gold and 10 Africans who Prince Henry handed over as slave gifts to the Pope, who there and then conferred on Portugal the right of possession and sovereignty over all lands to be discovered to the east of Cape Blanco. So that passage right there, I believe it was Pope Martin, if you will.
It was actually, so I wanted to, that's one thing in the book that I saw that the author got wrong.
He did not. He did not.
So Pope Martin V, he actually died in 1431, but Pope Nicholas V was the one that received those gifts and the 10 enslaved. But the book is saying that Pope Martin is the one that received it, but he couldn't have because the exploration didn't happen until 1441 when they brought back those 10 slaves. Because Pope Martin V died in 1431.
So 10 years prior.
Huh? I mean, it still happened. They still did the exploration.
Right.
They came back. It was just under a different pope. It was Pope Nicholas V is the one that received the gold dust.
You're right, King. Yeah, I stand corrected. You're right. You're right. He did. You did. And you said it, Pope Nicholas. And so Pope Nicholas, he wrote it's called the Romanus Pontifex. And it's the document that in 1455, I encourage you gentlemen I'll send it to you, to
Please
read that. And it's fascinating on the context of how someone can just write something up and it be law to be
Right.
followed to say slavery is okay. But that's when it started. I would say you
Mm-hmm.
guys as Romanist Pontifex.
That's when
Mm-hmm.
it
Uh,
started, man.
Yeah,
yes,
and that's
interesting.
yeah, and that's how
Go
they
ahead,
got a
B.
lot. That's how they got a lot
Yeah.
of indigenous people is using paper, using some form of
Hmm.
writing. You know what I mean? Even when they came over here dealing with the Indians, they would state that on paper we own this land, even though you've been here for thousands of years and settled here, but on paper we own this land. So
Sounds like
creating a
the,
whole
the Portuguese was out for people, man. Because this,
yeah.
I mean, this was the Portuguese that started the slave trade, the
Hmm.
Christians, Spanish people, and
Hmm.
they were also the ones that took over Mexico.
Yes. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Spread it. It was
Hmm.
all because of Christianity doing the same thing, using
Which was
Hmm.
them.
Isabel and Fernando, right?
Ferdinand. Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Ferdinand. Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, and it was all for the wealth and all of those things. But you're right. The comparison you made for the Indians. So it's like laws were created because they were already here.
Mm-hmm.
So the laws were created to justify them taking what
Right.
they wanted. It wasn't
Absolutely.
for anything. And so it really puts into context what is the reasoning behind the laws. We're not going to get into it, but when you speak of governance, these things were just written just so they could have say, well, this is what it is, and so this is law, but it really wasn't. And so
It
the
wasn't.
same thing with the Pope and the Roman Pontifex, that was just something he wrote on a piece of
Mm-hmm.
paper. He wrote on a piece of
Mm-hmm.
paper to give them
Yes.
permission to
Yes.
go and enslave these people.
And
And
I
it
think on
had
the next page or two, it talks about how they captured him. Like they were chasing down with horses and capture
yes,
him. And you think
Mm-hmm.
about that, like what type of human do you have to be to chase down another human on horseback and like you're ringing up cattle?
Right.
yep,
Like
Yeah.
yep,
for one,
yep.
I can't make myself think like that. I don't know how a person like would do that. Like
They did. Yes,
Yeah.
I can't
yes.
understand grasp that.
Yes,
You
and
know.
just
But
on page 127, the last paragraph there. So this I thought was profound too. The Portuguese found a new
mm-hmm.
name for the indigenous African religion. They called it fetish.
Fetish.
That's where fetish
Mm-hmm.
came from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, if you think about fetish today, it's like when you got a food fetish, when you got this type of fetish. It
Right.
came from because they're of the symbols and the things that they use in their religions. That's how it came.
Mm-hmm.
The word fetish came to be.
Right. Right.
I thought that was very interesting because now
Mm-hmm.
it takes on so many different definitions when you say fetish, not knowing that they just gave it to them as to because they believed in something different.
But it to me again, I've always tried to tie it into modern times. When we think about like Christian just mentioned chasing people down on horseback and
Hmm.
capturing them like cattle, it's no different than today. When these corporations, design these foods and chemicals and these, anything, there's no thought about the people and the children. There's no thought. It's all about money and greed. And you got guys who are we don't have just one Massa Musa these days. We have many these days, that run the country at the same time. But there's no thought about us and our health and our well-being and our
You're
future.
right.
I mean, it's just constant, it's about greed. And it's about, standing on that and having what they want, versus what we need.
But it
Somebody
seems
somebody always wants more.
Always
that's
wants
right.
more. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
seems like rulers like Mansa Musa are far and few and in between because he just
Very
didn't have the
rare.
power. He shared it with everyone,
Right.
and that
Right.
seems to be a rare quality of what we are
Yeah, it's
reading.
not it's not too often when an empire attacks another empire or kingdom, destroys it, and then stops.
Mhm.
Right.
This is true.
Right.
This is true. So on page 128, goes on to the gold mines of Alameda,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a story of the Alameda Beach, the chief of Alameda, Chief Kwame, and you had the Diego de Ambrosia,
Mm-hmm.
um, who was a knight of the royal household. So there was so they were, so the Portuguese would come, they do their business and then they would leave. They would come and do their business and they would leave. Um, However, they were wanting more. They were
Right.
wanting more, and
Right.
Chief Kwame, from reading his account on page 129, I get the impression that he had a sense
Yeah.
They were wanting more. He was getting the feeling that this was not going to go right, and he could
Right.
foresee that. For you not to make it permanent resident, it's best that you come do your business and you move on.
And that's
And
he even told him, like, you can still come here. You can still
Right.
collect
yes,
resources. You can still
Yes.
trade. He's like, just
yes,
don't set up a settlement because that will change our
yes,
relationship.
yes,
Yeah.
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 And so they lavished him with gifts, but it was the threats. The
Mm-hmm.
threats that
Mm-hmm.
finally made him give in, which is unfortunate. Gets to think about his people and whatnot, and he can notice in the way they were changing and the dress, and so they were
Mm-hmm.
wanting more. And you're right too about so when just to go back to take a step back when Prince Henry the Navigator got the okay, he really loaded up with the horses and the people and his soldiers and ammunition and came back. And you're right, unloaded those things and just were hunting these people down, and
Mm-hmm.
that is that's
It's sad.
it's sad, man.
Yeah.
It really
It's
is
sad.
sad. So getting on page to 130. Ken's got anything out of 130?
Portuguese quickly completed Elmina Castle and began turning Elmina into a permanent Portuguese-controlled base. I thought it was kind of crazy how fast they were able to build such a castle, and it's still here today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
Mhm.
Yeah, it
Well,
is.
listen, when he loaded up that ship, he brought everything that he needed. He brought
Mhm.
everything that he was going to need to build that thing. So either way, whether he gave his okay or not, they were going to build that fort. It's the impression I get. And so when he did give in, they wasted no time because they didn't want him to change his mind. They put
Right.
that thing up fast.
Right.
Well, they wanted to
Right.
spread Christianity.
That too as well.
And the reason
Yeah.
I think they wanted to spread Christianity is because through Christianity, they could have more power.
Yes.
They could have more control.
And more control.
It
Yep.
wasn't about saving souls.
No. Never has been. Never has been.
hmm And there were two kingdoms, two tribes that pushed back on that, and that was the Festus,
Mhm.
and the Comendias, who did not want any of that. They were upset that the Elaminas had given in and let them to do that. And to what you were talking about, it was about Christianity. So to solidify their position there, they encourage intermarriage.
Yes.
So
Mhm. Yeah, they did.
could, definitely get a stronghold on the situation. And going on to page
Mhm.
132, so yes, the Portuguese, they did flatter both the Comendias and the Festas, and they knew that the tribe leaders knew that, and so eventually they'd had enough, and so in 1570 they no longer took the bribes and the presents from the Portuguese, and so page 133 and 132. You can't get anything else out of those?
133, the author talks about the Portuguese missionary efforts and then asks why the Portuguese era in Christianity in West Africa faded. Alfonso de Balani and Alfonso de Bolanos, missionaries connected with the papal plans for Guinea and the Canary Islands. So basically, the Portuguese supported missionary activity extended beyond the Gold Coast into Sierra Leone, Benin, and then eventually into the Congo. And that's kind of like the end of the chapter.
Yeah. It just really stands out to me, like the strategies of war. You know what I mean? And just how they do not change. And it seems like that if you really start to study the strategies from different ancient times to modern times, you might be able to figure things out a little more clearly. There's a professor that uses gaming strategy to determine to discuss how war occurs, or just discuss how things could happen. And it is based upon ancient to modern strategy that he uses to understand what goes on. Like he brought up how Trump would get a second term. He brought up how Trump would go to war. His what he's stating now is that Trump would, the United States would go to war with Iran and that they will lose. But he uses that, that key points of ancient strategy to determine what goes on now in modern times.
You're right, man. And not a second term, third term.
Yeah. Well, did he say okay? Okay.
Yeah,
Well, he no
Tr- Trump
he
has mentioned
he's
third
saying
term
that
many times.
yeah he has,
Yes, it
but the
has.
professor
Yeah.
himself before Trump had a second term had determined that Trump would win a second term, and he did say that you're right, Christopher. He did state also that Trump would get a third term due to the war powers, that were
Yes,
that.
Hmm.
So yeah,
and I
Hmm.
yeah,
think that's why he's stretching this out.
I
Um,
do
Absolutely.
agree.
you
I do
know,
Absolutely.
agree.
and so that last year before the election, there, I don't like I said, I think the last election was the last election. We'll see.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll see.
I do agree.
but I mean, I don't know
So
what's going to
listen,
come the next year and a half.
yeah, he has to go in the next 2 years to stretch that out. So it's troubled times to say the least. Troubled
Hmm.
times to say the least. Just to think that if he does get a third term, I'm just speaking in terms of the laws that are written. How is that going to how is that going to sit? I mean,
Well,
that means we would stay in a state of war for the next 2 years.
it could be civil war, and then if civil war is applied, then from what I understand, I've heard through strategy that the government would release militia groups
Absolutely.
against the war itself, the civil war itself. So,
And where are you
you
hearing this
know,
from?
little birdie, little birdie.
I got you.
I no, I'll
Little
send it
birdie.
to you. I just you know how it is. You just kind of go at things, you start reading certain things, looking things up. So, somebody stated that, and I started looking it up, and not saying that it's factual, you know what I
Right.
mean, but I mean it does make sense. I mean, this happened before. Again, this is not nothing new. You know what I mean?
Mm-mm.
You think about it in the 1960s when you had the KKK, they basically ran amok in the United States, dealing with the South,
Yep.
and so they kept other militias or rebellions, African American rebellions in line in a sense, so it's not nothing new. It's not nothing new.
And the KKK was a Christian-based organization.
Absolutely Christian base. Burnt the cross in your front yard.
In your front yard.
In your front yard.
Kings, that was great. Listen, that was great information. I love doing this. Love doing this. No matter what happens,
Yes.
I love this,
Yes.
Kings. I love having you guys on here. And we all get together and bring this knowledge to everyone. King, you got that spotlight?
Yes, yes. Spotlight for today of Brother Many Words is, give me one moment. Let me pull it up here. All right. So our spotlight today is George Steiny Jr. was a 14-year-old African American boy from Alcoa who was convicted and executed in 1914 for the murders of two white girls. He remains the youngest person executed in the United States in the 20th century. What happened? In March 1944, two girls, 11-year-old Betty June and her sister, 7-year-old Mary Elm, were found dead. George Stanley was arrested after being questioned by authorities. Police claimed that he confessed, but there was no written confession signed by George and no record of any confession. He was questioned without a parent or attorney present. The trial lasted only a few hours. An all white jury deliberated for about 10 minutes before finding him guilty. His court appointed attorney presented little defense evidence, and George was sentenced to death. George Steinley was, or yeah, Steiny was executed in an electric chair on June 16th, 1944. He was only 14 years old and weighed about 95 pounds. For decades, many people questioned whether he had received a fair trial. In 2014, a judge of South Carolina set aside his conviction, finding that fundamental constitutional rights had been violated and that the trial had been profoundly unfair. Why this case is significant? This case is often cited as an example of racial injustice in Jim Crow South, lack of due process, dangers of coercing confessions, and inadequate legal representation. George Steinley Jr. was 14 years old, black boy executed in 1944 after a rush trial for the murder of two young girls. 7 years old, excuse me, 70 years later, a court overturned his conviction because of the serious violations of the rights to a fair trial. So I came across that on social media, and I just feel like that I just had to present that. I didn't even know,
Sure.
and being at 14 years old, they actually had a picture of a little boy with the execution hat on, if you would say, and just crying. So it's just, we when we talk about racial injustice in the United States, man, I don't think people understand how deep that really goes. You know, we just see the surface on it, but we really don't. We're not educated on really the brutality of the nature, and so I just want to bring that to light.
I appreciate that, King. I
Me
really
too.
do. And you know, you reading that, and I don't know if this has anything to do with one or the other, but the movie The Green Mile instantly came into my mind.
Yes.
That theme
Yeah.
and that narrative is almost identical. No, I know it's
Right.
different people,
Right.
but the storyline is is
Yeah.
pretty goddamn close. And
Yeah.
that's a great movie if you haven't
and
seen
and it's many storylines just like that.
it.
Like
Yes.
even when you think about Rosewood in Oklahoma, where there was a
Yes.
prominent black community who had they
Yes.
had airports and hotels and restaurants and all these, this economically based community, and it was literally burnt down in 24
To the
hours due
ground.
to pretty much the same narrative. A
Yes.
young man, black boy, was accused of touching a young white lady in an elevator, and chaos broke loose. And Rosewood is only one example of so many,
Yes. Yes.
things that went on just like that in multiple states. But Rosewood is
Yes.
only one that we tend to, be at,
Highlight.
yeah, yeah, highlighted. Yep, yep.
Yeah. Kings. That's a great spotlight. Great podcast, gentlemen. Great podcast. We gonna get out of here. Does anybody have anything they want to say in closing remarks?
Love you, Kings. Appreciate
Love
it.
you guys.
Yeah, great podcast. Love you guys as well. Thank you for joining us for Sunday Book Club. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share this with someone who values meaningful conversation.
Yes.
And join us
yes.
next Sunday as we continue building through wisdom, experience, and purpose. King Christopher, take us on out of here, King.
As always, our three core beliefs: faith, trust in your own power, believe deeply in your purpose, build unshakable confidence through action, and dedication. Show up when no one's watching. Stand firm in your commitment to grow, put in the reps mentally, physically, and daily. And lastly, discipline. Forge your character through consistency. Set your code and follow it without compromise. Control your impulses, command your results.
Peace.
Appreciate it.
See you,
Get
King.
after it. Love you guys.